Hey, hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm sure that at some point you must have wondered about getting into option buying because of the obvious advantage that an option buyer has of working with a very low capital and growing your account size to a much more larger capital by using an exponential ROI. But we know that option buying is very difficult. Majority of the option buyers most of the time are losing money, and the reason is they don't have a proper system, strategy, or a setup. So welcome everyone, this is Akash, and in this particular video we are going to learn about an option buying scalping strategy. Now this particular strategy is specifically designed for index, and the index that we are going to talk about is nothing but our favorite bank nifty index. One more thing that I would like to pinpoint right in the beginning is that all the information that we are going to talk about, all the rules that we are going to talk about, has to be applied on the spot chart of the bank nifty or nifty, but not on the futures chart. So please take this into consideration that all the rules that we are going to discuss have to be applied only on the spot chart of nifty or bank nifty. So with this, let us get started by understanding the rules of this particular strategy. So the first rule that you need to learn about is the time frame. So the time frame that we are going to use is a 2 minute time frame. For obvious reason, since we are going to talk about a scalping strategy, the time frame that we are going to use is 2 minute. I have experimented with 1 minute time frame as well as with 3 minute and 5 minute time frame, and I figured out that 2 minute works quite well for bank nifty and nifty, right? With that, let us go on to the second rule. The second rule says that you have to trade only between 9:20 and 10 a.m. Now guys, understand that the first 5 minutes, that is from 9:15 to 9:20, many of the algos are been deployed. At the same time, many people who had carried their position overnight are trying to adjust their position as per the today's new data, and that is the reason the first 5 minutes have to be absolutely avoided at any cost. Then from 9:20 to 10 a.m. you will be getting at least one good momentum move, which if you are able to capture, then you are done for the day and you don't need to trade anymore on that particular day. Now, sometimes, not always, but you can also extend this time of 10 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. because the momentum sometimes comes late in the first half of the market. But most of the time, I believe 9:20 to 10 a.m. it's a fair amount of time, and most of the time you just have to spend actual 15 minutes into the trade, right? With this, let us get down to the third rule, which says you have to deploy an RSI with 40 as its overbought condition and 20 as its oversold condition. Now normally the default values for RSI are 70 and 30, right? I'll be showing you how you can change them to 40 and 20 so that you can apply this particular strategy effectively. The fourth rule says that trade has to be initiated or squared off only on the candle closing basis. This is very important. Guys, understand that it's a 2 minute time frame and we have to wait for completion of that 2 minute candle, and only then we have to either initiate a trade, that is take an entry, or scare off your position, that is either book your loss or profit, whatever it is. But do not try to initiate the trade while the candle is still running, so that you might get into trapped into the false signal. The fifth rule says that no trade zone if RSI is between 40 and 20. If the value of RSI comes anywhere between 40 and 20, you just don't have to take a trade because the momentum will be absolutely missing in that particular chart. And if you trade, you will get into multiple stop loss being hit and you get into over trading. That's it. The sixth rule says that the R2R should be 1:1 or 1:2. Understand guys that we are deploying a scalping strategy, so you need to be very quick. You cannot wait to have a higher R2R of, let's say, 1:3, 1:8. Though I know that it is possible to get those kind of risk to reward ratio in an option buying setup, but this particular setup is designed for a R2R of only 1:1 or 1:2. So please, while taking a trade, keep these things in mind. Now what I'm going to do is we'll go and apply all these six rules one by one on four simple examples so that you get an idea like how are these rules to be applied, and then we'll take few practical examples on the chart and I'll show you how you could have applied those things live in the real market. So let's get on to the first example. Here we have a very simple example. We can see over here the RSS setting is at 40 and 20 like we discussed, right? And now we can see the first candle, right, where the RSI became 40 has to be noticed. So this is the first candle at which RSI became 40. So what we'll do is we'll mark the high of this particular candle. So the first candle whose RSI becomes 40 has to be marked the high of that control candle has to be marked, right? Then we have to wait for another candle which actually goes above this particular high and closes above this. So this is the candle, right? This is the candle where the value of the closing price has actually went above the high of the candle where the RSI went above 40. So this is the point where we'll take entry on the spot, that is 40,491. So we'll take entry over here and we'll keep the low of this particular candle as our stop loss. So the stop loss has to be kept over here. As we can see over here, I have already marked this is has to be kept at the stop loss. The risk to reward ratio that you can keep is roughly around 1:1. So if I take 1 over here, so approximately this will be 1 and this will be 1:2. So we can see the risk over here was 26.50 and the target should have been approximately 52, which got easily attained in this particular example. So this was a very simple example of how you can actually deploy this particular strategy with rules as well as setup clearly explained. Now you might be wondering, Akash, this is just an example for spot chart, but we'll be actually buying an option. Now it's very simple, guys. What you have to do is whatever is the price of this particular market, for example over here it was 40,449 491. So I'll go and select an at the money strike price. The strike price selection is also by default at the money. You don't have to go for any other strike price. Just go and select the at the money strike price and try to trade as per the setup, and trust me, you will be getting absolutely good results, right? With this, let me move on to the second example. Now in this example we can see the RSI value has gone above 40 and this is the candle where the RSI value went above 40. So we marked the high of this particular candle, but on the entire day or even until 10 o'clock we saw that the high of the candle didn't got breached by any of the candle. So this particular day we didn't got any signal to be as an option buyer as per this option buying scalping strategy. So this is something very important. Understand that if you don't get a signal, do not get into force trading because you will lose your capital. Ultimately at the end of the day, more than earning profit, you should be able to preserve your own actual capital. The third example, let's get into it. Over here again we saw this particular point RSI became overbought, that is it went above 40, and this was a candle at which RSI became overbought. So we marked the high of this particular candle, right? And we saw the high of this particular candle breached at this particular candle. So this, the closing of this particular candle over here was the entry point. So we took an entry over here which you can see over here, that is 39,567, and we placed the low of that particular candle at the stop loss. Now you can see the stop loss was of roughly around 48 points. So the target, if I have to go for let's say 1:2, has to be somewhere around 98 or 100, which easily got achieved within the next 15 minutes. So that is something which is very interesting. One more very important point that I think you should notice is that while any new candle is trying to breach the high or the level that we have marked, you need to see that the RSI is also overbought at the same point as well. It might happen that the candle is trying to breach but the RSI is within this particular range. Then as per our rule which says that if RSI is between 40 and 20, then we should not take a trade. So even if this is breaching the high of the candle, but if RSI value is between 40 and 20, you will not get into a trade. I hope that particular point is very clear to each and every one. So this was one more good example of how you can apply this option buying strategy. One final example before we move on to the actual charts. Now in all the previous example you saw most of the time RSI value got overbought right in the beginning or right in the first 2 minutes of the candle, right? That is what you saw. But let me show you one more example where RSI got overbought after some time. So you see at this particular point RSI became overbought, right? So I would say that this is the candle at which RSI became overbought. So we mark the high of that particular candle, and at this particular point, right? So we mark the high of this particular candle. I don't think that this, yeah. So this is a point where RSI got overbought, and we mark the high of this particular candle. So what we do is, whenever we see such kind of situation, you see over here the candle is getting breached above, right? And this is creating a valid condition. But under such situation, what I would prefer is that if the difference between the closing and the high is not very high, wait for some more time and just mark the high of that particular candle. This is just for extra security so that you don't get pushed out from the market because of the false stop loss hitting process. So what you see, just since we actually placed our entry slightly above, we were able to protect ourselves, and then we took an entry at this particular point, right, at this particular point, and then the low of this particular candle was the stop loss, and we tried to take a target which is equal to the height of this particular candle, right? Now normally if you don't do this, that is still okay. Let's assume that if your stop loss was getting hit, what would it cost us? So we, let's say, took an entry over here, and immediately on the next candle our stop loss get hits. That's still fine, because the stop loss in this example, as we can see, is very very low, and in most of this particular example the stop loss will be always very very low, and hence even if your stop loss is getting hit, most of the time you won't be losing much. But see to it, guys, that you always book your losses if your stop loss is getting hit as per the system or the setup. Now, to understand systems in a much more better way, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking you to the actual chart. So let's get on to the actual chart. So here, guys, we are having an actual chart of Bank Nifty. I have already kept the time frame at 2 minutes, and here is the RSI. So just go to the RSI setting and see to it that the upper limit is at 40 and the lower limit is at 20. So I have kept already at 40 and 20. So I'll just press OK over here. Now let's understand what is happening in this example. Now in this example, guys, if you see, this is the candle where the RSI first got overbought. So what we'll do is we'll simply go and try to mark the high of this particular candle. And whenever the high of this particular candle gets breached, right? So you see 920, the candle at which it got breached is nothing but 919, right? That means after 5 minutes, this candle actually got closed at 1921, 921. So the closing is over here. So what we'll do is we'll take an entry at the closing of this particular candle. So let me just mark it with green color. So guys, this is the point where we actually take an entry, right? Let me just zoom it out for you people. And once we take an entry over here, what we'll do, the low of this particular candle has to be kept as stop loss. So let me just mark it with red color. So we have our entry, right? This was the condition. We'll take an entry at the closing. This will be stop loss, and now we have to keep the target. Now like I said, the target could be 1:1 or 1:2. Normally I would prefer, if you're just getting started into the market, just try to go and keep a stop loss of only 1:1. Once you get more confidence and hands-on experience on the strategy, you can go for a higher target, right? So over here, if I just show you, so what is the risk over here? So risk over here in terms of absolute point is somewhere around 72, right? Now if I look for an at the money option whose delta value is 0.5, if I multiply that with this 72, let's say 70 number for the sake of simplicity, roughly around 35 point will be your stop loss in the actual option, right? That is what you will be getting. And if I look for the target, right, target will be roughly around 140 since the stop loss of 72. So if I see 140 over here, it got breached. You see, the 140 target got breached after, let's say, 15-20 minutes. Since all of these are 2 minutes candle, the 140 or 142 target was easily achieved by this particular strategy. So this strategy actually works. I have back tested it a lot, and you can definitely use it for your own benefit. Before we wind up this particular video, let me just give you one more example. Okay, let me just see. Okay, so here we have one more good example of this particular strategy. Now in the beginning itself, we can see the RSI was not overbought, right? It went into this region overbought, and we could have marked the high of this particular candle. So what we'll do is we'll mark the high over here, right? So this became the high of the candle where the RSI actually became overbought, right? Now we'll wait for a situation where RSI is again above overbought, and we get a candle which closes above the high of this particular candle. So this is where the candle got closed, and this will be immediately here will be nothing but the entry. So I would say in this example we got a very tight entry, which is a very good thing, right? And the stop loss will be the low of this particular candle. So this is the stop loss for us. So we have placed a stop loss. Now what will be the target? Now the stop loss over here for us is how much? It's around 126 points. That's a 140 point. That's a very big stop loss, right? And I'll also tell you how to manage this situation. Now if the stop loss was around 150, the target should be around 300. That's at least 150 or at least 300. So let's see, at least, so 150 target got at least breached over here itself. I think it happened quickly within the first 10-20 minutes. And then if I went for the 1:2 target, that I think also got achieved very easily. as per this particular strategy. So this is what I was trying to tell you. This strategy really works. Try to backtest it as per your own capability and time period available, and see the results for yourself. Now, one pro advice or the final tip that I would like to give from my side to all of you is that, what if sometimes you're not comfortable with such a high stop loss? What should you do in that situation? What I would suggest is that, once your entry, yeah, right, once you take an entry, if the stock moves, let's say, above your particular price even by one or two candle, you can easily trail the stop loss to the 50% of the first candle, right? Or you can trail it to the break even level. Generally, do not try to go and trail it directly to the break even, because you might be pushed out from the market, and then the stock or index might move as per your analysis. So it's better to keep the stop loss at the 50% of this particular candle, and then as it keeps on moving, after it has gone at a particular at least 1:1, then probably you can go for a break even stop loss, right? So with this particular method, I'm sure that you will be able to make money. Just try to apply. I have seen it working multiple times. Just understand the rules correctly and try to apply as quickly, or with as better judgment as possible. Now, for all those of you who are really interested in learning about markets, and who are interested in finding good trading opportunities in index as well as stocks, what I'm doing is, I'm just dropping a WhatsApp link in the chat, in the description box, so that if you want to get associated with the community where I keep on sharing trading ideas, I keep on sharing the learning or educational material apart from the video, then you can join that particular WhatsApp group, which is available in the description. So do check out the description and join us if you feel like learning more and more about stock market. This is Akash S. Sawan signing off. Thank you everyone.